Hello everyone, my name is Jackson and I am a psychologist that for the last several years has been working with elite athletes all across Australia and international as well. And today I'm here to provide you an introduction into useful tools that a lot of these athletes are using at the high elite level and to help you have these for you in order to better your performance, better your well-being, and better your physical health. So let's dive into it. The first thing that we're going to talk about today is actually the impact of what our brain can do on our physical performance. So several years ago, there was a research study where what they did was they got a lot of high performing athletes to run a 400-meter race. So they got them to run a 400-meter, have a minute's rest, 400-meter, have a minute's rest, and to keep going until they physically felt like they could not go anymore. During that minute rest, what they did was they got some really fancy tools to kind of test what their muscle endurance was like, what their muscle strength was like, what their blood levels were like. And what they ended up finding is that even though these athletes reported that they were feeling exhausted and could not run another 400 meters again, they actually found that their muscle groups were only being used at about 40% capacity. So what does this mean? This means that our mindset has such a powerful predictor on our performance, on our energy levels, on our mood, and so much more. And today we're going to look into that. So this section is on anxiety. Anxiety and stress and adrenaline are all normal parts of racing. They're all normal parts of competing. They're all normal parts of exams and assessment at school. When you start to feel anxious, your body will tell you. So feeling stressed and feeling anxious looks like, that feeling of stomach butterflies, that feeling of like your chest is beating 100 miles an hour. Maybe you kind of feel like sometimes you're jittering. Maybe sometimes it's going to the bathroom about 10, 15 times before your race. Sometimes anxiety is also getting headaches or feeling a bit dizzy. Anxiety can also feel like, when you're recovering, that you've just got aches and pains in your body. Anxiety is something that's very normal with everyone, within all of us. And anxiety is there to let us know that what we're doing is important to us. So what can we do with anxiety? Anxiety is something that over time we do have control over. Over time, anxiety is something that can actually really help us with moving forward and performing at our best. So what we can do is when you start to get anxious, is just to notice what your breathing's like. So maybe you're about to get in the blocks for a competitive race and you notice your heart rate going 100 miles an hour. Maybe you're about to wind up your run before you go and jump over high jump. Maybe you're about to just get into the tent and you're warming up. What you can do is you can focus on your breath. Your breath is the key ingredient that will help bring your stress down and help your body relax before the race, before the training, before whatever event that you do. What can happen is that if we compete when we feel anxious, is sometimes we just don't feel our best. Sometimes we can feel like the race happens and we just have no idea What happened? So I encourage you now just to kind of notice what it's like to be breathing in your body. In fact, where are you breathing from? So for me, I can notice that I'm breathing a little bit more from my chest, a bit more from my throat, and maybe sometimes from my nose. But in order to deeper relax, what I need to do is I put my hand on my chest, breathe in and out. And again, breathe in and out. This is something that can help relax you, and you can use this for exams, you can use this for performance, you can use this for school, you can use this for even getting ready for bed. If you feel like your chest's beating 100 miles an hour, I would encourage you to even put your hands on your stomach and just see if you can imagine yourself breathing into your stomach. So what you can do is you can close your eyes and imagine that as you breathe in, you're breathing in from your stomach and you're almost pushing your stomach out. And then as you let go, you can feel your stomach coming in. So you'll breathe in for 3 seconds, hold it for 2 seconds, and breathe out for 3 seconds. So it looks like this. Hold it for 2, and then out for 3. What we're going to be talking about now is self-criticism. Self-criticism is something that, that we always seem to tell ourselves, I doubt myself, I didn't perform at my best, I'm worried about the pressure of what mum and dad are going to think, I'm worried about what the coach is going to say. Self-criticism is something that can really impact us in terms of how we feel, how we think, what we see, what we notice in many different ways. What I encourage you to do is just think about the last time you had a self-critical thought. Maybe there's one in your head going right now. I would encourage you to think about if this critical voice had a picture, if it was the shape of a cartoon, what would it look like? Would it be big? Would it be loud? Would it be soft but mean? What would it be like? I wonder what type of voice it has. Does it have a bit more of a harsher tone? Or does it want to yell? How does the self-critical voice speak to you? Does it often sometimes bring a sense of fear? Maybe that fear might be, I'm just not going to compete well today. And then I'm worried about what mum might think. I am worried that I've just come back from an injury and I'm going to hurt myself again. What does the fear say? I encourage you to write that down. What I want you to do now is reflect on this in a way where if someone was to come to you with some of these self-critical thoughts, what would you say to them? So for example, say I came to you and I said, hey, I've got a 200-meter event coming up and I'm really worried I'm not going to perform at my best. I'm worried about what mum's going to think. I feel like I'm going to let my coach down. What would you tell me? Would you say, hey, just try your best and see how you go? Or would you say, yeah, you're screwed. Good luck. Have fun. Of course not. You would relate to your friend in a kind way. Otherwise, they wouldn't be your friend. So I ask you this question. If you were to treat a friend the way that you treat yourself when you make a mistake, would they still be your friend? What are your goals? And we talk about goal setting so much, and I'm sure you're very familiar with goal setting and what it's involved. But the hardest part is that we don't often reflect on these goals. We reflect on things that aren't going well. We reflect on injuries that we're having. We reflect on some of the restraints where we don't feel like we're performing at our best. And what this means is that over time we start to think a bit more negatively about how we perform. For example, I just want you to think about a time where you've had a pretty tough day at school, and you've turned up to training. I bet you kind of would find that you'd be feeling a little bit negative, a little bit down, a little bit fatigued, and you'd probably find that your performance at training wasn't exactly the best. It's interesting though, because there's also times when we can feel that we're actually going to have a really good session. We can feel when we're going to perform at our best, and we can feel when a race is going to be good or not so good. And you can tell that yourself. The amount of times I've watched athletes at training, and you can see as you're about to run up to a high jump, as you're about to run up to long jump, as you're getting in the blocks, the way that you think and the way that you feel and the way that you are approaching every single drill, every single routine that you're doing has an impact on whether it's going to be a good jump, a good race, a good time, or if it's going to be tricky. So what does that mean? It gets us back to our goals. What are our goals? The analogy I like to use is to imagine that you're on a train, and the train is going a certain way on its track, and it's going and it's going and it's going, but it has a destination. Sometimes it takes longer to get to that destination. Sometimes it veers off. But other times what we can see is that as long as we've got a goal and we're actively trying to meet that goal, that we're going to be performing better, we're going to be feeling better, and we're actually going to compete at a much higher level. Within goal setting itself, there's a rule that's called the 5,000 hour rule, or the 5,000 repetition rule. And what this means is that for a skill to go from amateur level, so meaning you've just picked it up and you're learning it for the very first time, to take that skill from a beginner to the elite level, which means it's happening automatically. So think about your running style here. Think about your jumping style, the amount of repetitions there that you're doing with those jumps after jumps after jumps will start to determine whether what you're doing is going to be at a much higher level, a lower level, or in fact, are you going to be training mistakes? You are the average of your 5 closest friends. So what does this mean? This isn't your 5 friends in your closest proximity. This is people that you feel boost you up, people that you feel like you've got a connection with, people that you enjoy being around. over working with so many athletes, what we find is that what you really need outside of yourself is also a supportive friend group. This friend group really can help get the best of you, can help you performing a lot better, can help you feel happier, and really helps at training. So I just want you to now to think about some of those friends that you've got at training, some of those people who are in your squad, who you feel when you're around, it makes training that little bit easier. You might even notice there's been certain training sessions that you've had where they've been pretty difficult, they've been pretty tough, they've been pretty hard. But what you've noticed is that almost suffering with the amount of pain that you're going through with your best friends makes it that little bit easier. You know, sometimes when we actually have to train on our own, we can find that it can be a little bit difficult. So there's a difference there between training with your friends and training by yourself. When we look at a lot of these professional athletes, and you know, I spend a lot of time with these athletes, what we can see is that it really comes down to your own individual drive and how much you really want to be at your best, just as much as the amount of influence that your friends can have on you as well. So a bit more understanding about that is if you can think about some of the social groups that you have at school, and you're thinking about, you know, there might be certain friendship groups where you feel like you fit in. There might be certain friendship groups that you feel like you start to kind of stress out. You start to think about, oh, how am I talking to these people? I don't know what to talk to these people about. Actually, I feel a little bit alone. But then you finish school and you come back and, you know, you go to training and you actually feel pretty good at training. You feel great. You feel like that's where you belong. And what you start to notice is your training environment becomes your family environment. And this is something that is really important. And that is the more that you involve yourself with people who are going to build you up, the more that you open up to other people and say, actually, I didn't train that good today. What do you think went wrong? Hey, I didn't train that good today. Maybe I'm just a bit flat. Even just letting your coach know, actually, you know what? This week I've got exams, so I might not be performing at my best. So maybe I might need a lighter session. These are all important things that we have to keep in mind when we're training. Because over time, what happens is if we keep track of all those times where we've turned up to training and maybe we've had a really good session and we've written it down, you know, we can wake up the next day, look what went well at training, look what didn't go well. Over time, you'll start to see that there is an indication to when you're training and when you're training at your best, and potentially what's going on for you when you're not training at your best. One of the hardest things about being an athlete is recovering from injuries. Injuries are something that, you know, we will always get them. It's just part of being an athlete. But what you can do is the way that you manage your injury and the way that you engage with several psychological tips to help you navigate and manage that injury, you can actually speed up your process of recovery time. So what you can do when you're injured, and this is something that even me, when I was injured, I used it myself for running, I used it myself when I was heavily involved in football, is it was something where when you close your eyes and you can feel that your body is hurting in a certain area, so maybe it's your knee, maybe it's your ankle, what you do is you start to imagine that that part of your body is healing. So what that might look like is closing your eyes right now and just kind of giving your body a scan. So I can feel sitting in the chair that there's a bit of pressure on my lower back. Maybe you feel that too. Maybe you might have kind of an ongoing ankle injury, hamstring soreness. What I encourage you to do right now is to close your eyes, and I want you to think about positive thoughts and actually sending those positive thoughts to your part of your body that feels sore. So this might take example of I actually feel okay. My body is there to tell me that I am recovering and I am healing. What might even work is imagining there's a smiley face that you're sending from your head to your knee. Because what we can find is that maybe when we're getting back into recovering from training is that things are getting a bit difficult. You might start to notice, oh, I don't want to push it too hard because my hamstring might hurt. Or I don't want to push it too hard because I might feel my knee. What you can do is you can actually psychologically prepare yourself for training. So at the start of training, you can close your eyes. You can focus on your breath. You can send yourself positive thoughts to your knee. And as you're running, you can just really start to engage in your 5 senses. Thank you so much for your time and investing in your mental health. There is nothing more important than your mental health. You can't simply put a price on that. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you got something out of it. To contact me, please feel free to visit www.thejacksonhill.com.au, or alternatively, you can email me to jacksonhillpsychology@gmail.com. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email, to visit the site, to even check out the other resources that are there. There is a lot of free stuff there that's helpful for athletes. I look forward to hearing from you. Let me know how you found today, and I'll chat to you soon.